Hi everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you a What I Watched video. So What I Watched videos is just a video where I talk about all the movies that I have seen. I'm doing catch up, I've been very behind on these videos. I recently published the What I Watched for the April through June period. That's how far behind I was. So this will be for the third quarter of the year, so July through September, and all of the movies and TV and stuff that I was watching during that time. So let's jump straight in because I actually watched quite a lot over this period of the year. So I guess we'll start off with TV, and I actually have nothing to talk about. I've talked about it many a time. I've been in a TV watching slump for literal years. So I was still during this stage doing my Buffy Angel rewatch with my sister. That is still ongoing now and was definitely happening during that period. So I was watching that, but I didn't watch any of Glee, which is the show that I'm currently trying to get caught up on. I do still hope, like, spoiler alert for the last quarter of the year. So far I haven't watched any Glee at all in this quarter either, but I am hopeful that I'm going to be able to finish at least season 5 while I'm on break from work. So fingers crossed. It is a goal that I have for myself while I'm on break. So no TV related report, so let's jump into the movies. So starting off with the movies that I watched in the month of July, I watched 5 movies in the month of July. The first one that I watched was Ready Player One. So I had recently read the book for Ready Player One, and so I wanted to watch the movie adaptation. This was okay. It's definitely not as strong as the book for me. They changed a lot, like it's very different. And I can see why that would be necessary for this type of movie. So basically, to say it without kind of spoiling anything, I guess the first task I didn't like very much in the movie, but the second task I really enjoyed. So like I said, I didn't enjoy it quite as much as the book. Still an enjoyable movie. I gave the movie 3.5 stars. I then rewatched Scream. Scream is one of my all-time favorite movies. The first one is superior to all the others, but I enjoy the franchise as a whole. Scream, if you don't know, is a teen slasher flick from 1996, and it is really, really good. It plays with a lot of the typical horror slasher like tropes, which I really, really appreciate. Like I mentioned, it's one of my favorite movies, and it's always going to be a 5-star for me. I just don't think I could ever give it anything less than that. I've watched it so many times. I always enjoy myself. Next, I saw Thor Ragnarok. This was, again, on my never-ending quest to catch up on the Marvel Universe. Originally, when I started catching up on Marvel, it was so that I could see Thor Ragnarok in cinema. Didn't happen. I did not catch up in time, and so I didn't end up seeing it in cinemas because I really did want to be caught up. But I ended up finally watching it. Really, really, really enjoyed Thor. The Thor movies have always been some of my favorite in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Really, really enjoyed it. It was a great movie. It's not my favorite of the Marvel movies, but I thought it was a great movie. I gave it 4 stars. I then watched a movie from 2006 called Lonely Hearts, which is apparently based on a true story. It stars Salma Hayek and Jared Leto as like a serial killer couple. This movie really missed the mark for me. Didn't enjoy it. I ended up giving that one 2 stars. And then the final movie that I watched in the month of July was actually another rewatch, and that was Mamma Mia. I own this movie on DVD, and I was planning to go with my mother, my sister, and my brother's girlfriend to see the second Mamma Mia movie, and so I wanted to rewatch the first one before I did that. I really love Mamma Mia. It is just so much fun. Yes, I recognize that a lot of the singing isn't the best, but I kind of love that about it. I don't know why, but I really, really enjoy this movie. It's just so much fun, and I gave it 4 stars. Now moving on to all of the movies that I watched in the month of August. I actually watched 7 movies in August. So first off, we have Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, the second Mamma Mia movie. Now, I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I didn't think this was as good as the first one. In particular, in the first like maybe 30 minutes of the movie, I was like cringing. It felt real cringe, and I was thinking, oh God, I'm not gonna like this. As the movie went on, I thought it found its groove, but I just don't think it lives up to the first one at all. All of the ways that they tried to put the songs into the storyline of the movie felt a little bit contrived, and like, you're gonna kind of have that, but it just didn't work as well for me in the sequel as it did in the first one. It is still really like enjoyable movie to watch. So I did still really enjoy it, but it definitely doesn't live up to the first one for me. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I then watched The Legend of Hell House. So this is a, when's this from? 1973 slasher, haunted, well, it's not slasher, sorry, it's a haunted house movie. I watched this because I had recently read the book by Richard Matheson, and he was involved in the movie as well. I really didn't like the book, really didn't like the movie. For a haunted house movie, how was this so boring? The movie was really boring and it was just not good, and I gave it 1.5 stars. I then watched another horror movie. This one was a slasher from 1980 called Terror Train. This one is basically about I think it's like an end of school trip, and they're on a train it's not like a trip, it's like their end of school party that they're all in costumes aboard this train. I really love the premise of it, and a lot of these 70s, 80s slashers are not good, so I had low expectations going into this one. I ended up really enjoying it. It's definitely nothing amazing, but it was definitely one of the better ones from this time period, I think. Nothing amazing, gave it 3 stars. I then watched Black Panther, again on my quest to catch up on Marvel. Really, really, really liked Black Panther. I mean, this movie is groundbreaking in so many ways, and I know just generally for like the black community it really is, but how many black women of power who are just badasses, totally like getting shit done. I was totally here for it. Really, really enjoyed the movie. I ended up giving that one 4 stars. I then watched Palo Alto, which is a movie, I think directed and starring and written by actually, I think, James Franco, and it stars Emma Roberts. I used to really, really, I don't like not love her anymore, I'm just not as obsessed with her as I used to be. Used to really love Emma Roberts. So I had all of her movies, probably pretty much all of hers on my like to watch list at some point because I just really used to be so in love with her. I didn't really like this movie. It's very like angsty teen movie, but which I normally would be into, but like pretentious angsty teen movie. So yeah, not my favorite. I ended up giving that 2.5 stars. I then watched a real dud, Phantasm, another horror movie from the late 70s. This one, I just really didn't like. I can't even pinpoint for you what it was I didn't like about it. It's one of those movies that while I was watching it, my mind wandered so many times. I feel like I can barely remember any of this movie because I just wasn't enjoying it. And in the end, I gave that one 1/2 star. That's right, 1/2 star. Really, really didn't like it. However, the final movie that I watched in August was way on the upswing because that was To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I finally watched it at this point. Obviously, it was getting so much hype. I'm a fan of the books. I freaking adored this movie adaptation. I think the movie's a little bit better than the books even. Because I think the books were like a 3.75 to 4 kind of range for me across the trilogy. Really, really, really loved the movie. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It captures everything I want in a teen movie. It took me back to all of the like classic teen movies, which I've always been a fan of like 16 Candles and all of that type of thing. I really, really, really loved it. What can I say? And I gave that one 5 stars. Finally, moving on to all of the movies that I watched in the month of September, in which I watched 11. I was really in my like movie watching groove in September. So the first movie that I watched was actually Crazy Rich Asians. I went to the cinema to see this with my mum. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely not anything totally amazing, but it's very enjoyable. And like everyone says, that wedding scene, holy crap. That was like one of the most beautiful scenes I've ever seen in a movie in my entire life. So gorgeous. I did enjoy the movie, gave it 4 stars. I then finally watched Avengers Infinity War. That's right, you guys, I finally caught up on the Marvel Universe. So after I didn't catch up in time to see Thor Ragnarok in cinema, I was then like, oh, I'll catch up in time to see Avengers Infinity War. Didn't happen. I was still super behind. And you guys know how hard it was not to be spoiled for this movie. It was really, really, really tough to avoid spoilers. I managed, but it was really tough. I loved Avengers Infinity War. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's one of my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Not my favorite. I gave it 4.5 stars. I will link my Letterboxd account down below just generally for you guys to check out if you're interested, but I do have a ranking of all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, like a list from, 1 to, what are we at, like 17, 19, something like that. I have all of the movies ranked in order of how I enjoyed them if you guys are interested in checking that out. I then broke a rule of mine with my next movie. So generally, I don't allow myself I'm just going to movies and books. I don't allow myself to either rewatch or reread something that I have read or watched that year. I broke that rule because I rewatched To All the Boys I've Loved before. I had already at one point put it on and just like fast forwarded, and like just watched all my favorite scenes. And then at another point, I think it was when I'd finished watching Avengers Infinity War, actually, I was like, oh, I just really like need something light and fluffy. And so I put it on and I was just going to watch the scenes. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to watch the whole movie. And I ended up rewatching it. And I loved it just as much the second time. Gave it 5 stars again. I then watched a movie called Accepted. This is a comedy movie from like the mid-2000s, starring Justin Long, Blake Lively. It basically is about a guy who doesn't get accepted into college, and so he creates a fake college and like a fake acceptance letter to his parents, and that all kind of takes off from there with him basically having this fake college with like lots of other people actually attending the college. And it has some interesting commentary, I guess, on do you need to go to college and what should college be about, which I guess could be pretty interesting. It was okay, not one of my favorite movies ever, but it was enjoyable. I gave it 3 stars. I then rewatched Blue Crush. I don't know why, but I was just having a craving for this movie. You know when you just start to think about a movie and think, I haven't seen that in such a long time. And I had used to own it on DVD when I lived at my parents' place, and I think it's a movie that ended up staying at my parents when I moved out. And so I had recently rebought a copy of the movie, and so I rewatched it. I enjoyed it. I think it's an enjoyable movie. I gave it 4 stars. However, in that DVD that I bought of it, it came as like a double pack with Blue Crush and Blue Crush 2. And so I watched Blue Crush 2. I had never seen it before. It's okay. Definitely nowhere near as good as the first one. It's definitely one of those movies that has like almost no link to the first one. In fact, I don't know if it's got a link at all, except that they're both about female surfers. I'm trying to think if they even tried to, Grease 2 style really tenuous link to the first one, but I don't think they even did. I think literally it's just because they're both about surfing. Nowhere near as good as the first one. I gave it 2.5 stars. I then watched a movie called The People Under the Stairs. This is a movie from 1991. That was one of the strangest movies I've ever watched. And I will say that the 2 actors who played the 2 like evil characters did an amazing job. I enjoyed the movie kind of, but it was very, very strange. And in the end, I gave that 2.5 stars. I then watched a movie called 50-50, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. This is basically about Joseph Gordon-Levitt being diagnosed with cancer at the start of the movie and being given a 50-50 chance at living. That's basically the premise of the movie. I enjoyed it for the most part. Nothing spectacular. Gave it 3.5 stars. I then watched another slasher from the 70s, 80s. This one was from 1981 and is called The Funhouse. Fun fact though, as I was watching this, I realized this seems kind of like a familiar premise, and I realized, and I have it on my shelves somewhere, it's based on the book Funhouse by Dean Koontz, which is a book that I read, is one of the first books that I ever read where I was like, this is a little bit like naughty, and I don't know if like my parents would like that I was reading this, because it was a book that my sister owned and I had just taken from her and read of hers. So it is based on that. I haven't read that book in years. It's one I actually want to reread, but the movie was terrible. How many stars did I give it? I gave it 2 stars. Really, really not a good movie. I then watched Watership Down. This is the movie adaptation of the book. Again, I'd recently read the book, and so I wanted to watch the movie. I feel like this is a movie that people talk about a lot as like a kid's movie. It was okay. I didn't really love it that much. The animation is very dated. And I don't know, it was just kind of boring and a little bit too long, but it was okay. I gave it 2.5 stars. And then the final movie that I watched in the month of September and in this period of the year was The First Time. This is another like teen rom-com-y type movie starring Britt Robertson and Dylan O'Brien. It's set over the course of basically, I think it's 1 weekend. It's nothing groundbreaking. There's a pretty good makeout scene in it, if that's something that you're into. Having said that, the chemistry between the 2 leads is phenomenal, and I realized after watching it when I looked into it that they're together in real life, so it totally makes sense, and their chemistry totally comes across on camera. I will also say the movie has a great soundtrack, and it's not really songs that I recognized, but just songs that I really liked the sound of, like when the music was playing in the movie, every time I was like, oh, what's this song? I really like it. That type of thing. But it was nothing amazing, but I did really enjoy it and I gave that movie 3.5 stars. So those are all of the movies that I watched from July through September. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've watched any of these movies, what your thoughts are on them, or what movies you guys have been watching. If you've got any great movie recommendations, I would love to know. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more of my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye guys!